Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Venture Utah. I am your host, Cameron Porter, and we have a phenomenal lineup for you today. We will be talking about organizing, we'll be talking about how you can make a difference in your local school district, and we will also be talking about the attitude and mindset of work. And it's going to be great. I'm very excited about it. Our first guest today is a write-in candidate for District 2 of the Davis School Board, Emilie Daly. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So first question would be, as a write-in candidate, why did you make that leap? Why did you decide to run?
I have 4 kids in the district, 2 high schoolers, a junior high, and an elementary school, so I get to see firsthand every single decision that the board makes and how it affects my children, and on each individual level, because it looks different in elementary than it will for the secondary schools of junior high and high school, because they have an A-B day schedule.
Right.
And with the current decision that they made to jump to a hybrid learning, it is a struggle because there's just so much disorganization and misinformation. I was tired of not knowing who to talk to get answers, so I decided to be a person that people could reach out to and get answers.
I love that. So what would you say that you're, kind of give me the basic platform that you're running on.
Okay, I have noticed that there is a lack of parents' voice on the board. Currently, I believe there's only one school board member that is raising children that are assigned to the district in a public school setting. The rest of them, I think, have raised children, and they might have some grandchildren, but they are not doing the day-to-day organizing and negotiating and navigating. And I felt like that was a problem. I felt like they aren't seeing the big picture when they're making these decisions, and parents needed a voice to say, hey, if you do that, that affects our home lives like this. And the students also don't have a voice, and I would like to change that too. They currently have 2 student school board members, but there are 72,000 kids in Davis School District. We're the 61st largest school district in the United States. We are the 2nd or 3rd largest district in Utah, and they have 2 students to represent all of that. And they're very, very bright, well-educated, super motivated students. They're really incredible people. But that isn't indicative of 72,000 students. There's a whole range there, and I think there needs to be a broader diversification for the student voice as well.
Okay, so the idea is then to have someone who is a parent who currently has children in the district,
yes,
attending those schools, to have a voice on the school board.
Yes, correct.
And also to have students there.
Yes.
So so this whole movement, what prompted it?
It was the switch to hybrid. Because if you look at it, for the AB day students, they will have classes on A day, then they'll have a remote learning day, then they'll have their B day classes, and then a remote learning day, and then Friday is also a remote learning day if you're on the Monday, Wednesday schedule, which they separated by alphabet. The first half of the alphabet, Monday, Wednesday, second half, Tuesday, Thursday. What that means, if you're doing the math, is they get taught by a licensed professional teacher, math, for instance, 1 day a week. For the whole week in high school. And what if they're taking CE chemistry, like one of my kids are, whatever that pronoun is. Actually, his high school teacher reached out to Weber State and said, we're going to a hybrid schedule. Can we amend the curriculum, because I'm only going to see these students once a week? And Weber State said, I'm sorry, we can't, or else we won't be accredited. So my student gets taught 1 day a week in a college course, and is expected to perform the same as the Weber County students who are also taking that college course. And they're getting either 2 or 3 days of professional instruction. I don't know why the bigger picture wasn't thought of, and there's just so many holes in education. At this point, we want choices for an equal education for our students, because Salt Lake County, most of their districts are doing 5 days a week. Weber County, both of their districts are doing 5 days a week. So our kids are now at risk for falling behind because we don't have choices. And even if you go to the online learning option that they offered, they have now made that a hybrid. So We aren't getting the education.
Let's talk more about that.
Okay.
So there's been some feedback that I've seen to this movement as I followed your campaign and everything going on that, there already are choices.
Right.
So what more are you wanting them to do?
Right.
But you just mentioned that the online option just morphed into a hybrid option.
Yes, they have now scaled back the number of hours that the children online will receive professional licensed teaching, because the hybrid students, they realized, they're getting 1 day a week on each subject if they're an AB schedule. In elementary school, they're getting 2 days. And they realized that if they let the online go as they had originally organized it, those children would be getting far more education than the hybrid kids. And so they changed the online to be a hybrid schedule as well. So you still have, I think it's a half an hour, I think it's an hour total per week. I believe that's right. I think it's 30 minutes one day and 30 minutes the next day.
Wow.
So I don't know why they think that's education. And I don't know why they are surprised that parents are wondering where our education is for our students that we are guaranteed by the state of Utah. It is a law in the state of Utah for students to be offered education. And there are students in Salt Lake County that are offered education and Weber County, but we don't have the choices to get the education. No matter which option they are offering us, the education is still not there. And that's a problem.
So what would be your response to the concern that, well, if you go to school 5 days a week, you're just going to have a COVID outbreak and shut everything down anyway?
I would ask to see the numbers. Why can Salt Lake County districts who have higher numbers than us go to 5 days a week? But then you cross the line into Davis County and all of a sudden we go to hybrid. But then as soon as you cross the line to Weber County, we can do 5 days a week again. They have the same information and our numbers are different. So I want to see that, and that's been our whole thing, is why did Davis County School Board members choose this? They haven't given us an answer. What are the metrics that they are looking for to switch between phases? What are they looking for that will let us go to 5 days a week? What are they looking for exactly when they're going to close schools? We've been told that it's 15 students per school, and it doesn't matter what size the school is. It's not a percentage. It's the small schools and the big schools. 15 students, we're closing down. Those aren't good metrics. There's not a good system. I didn't even know what remote learning was going to look like until the day of remote learning. And even then, I was still just hearing it from my students, from my children, and not from the educators. And that's a problem, is we just don't have the communication there. We don't have the transparency there. We don't have the metric system there. And the data doesn't support this extreme of a response.
So obviously you're running as a write-in candidate because you're dissatisfied with the way the school board is currently operating.
Yeah.
But this wasn't option number one.
No.
Option number one was to work with the school board and give that feedback, provide that feedback, and hopefully elicit change.
Absolutely.
What was the school board's response to the parents who came in and voiced these concerns?
The response was, we're going to do what we want. Thanks for coming. That was the response. Or it was very political and abstract and a non-answer. They feel like, I think that they don't have the answers themselves, because who does? It's 2020. Nobody has any answers. So we understand that as parents, but we wanted to know what the game plan was. What does the end goal look like? And I know they say 5 days, but you can't just, if anybody knows, when they're setting a goal or they're trying to be organized, they can set that end goal, but then they have to make the smaller goals in between to make that a reality. And that's what we want the Davis School Board to do, and they should be running like a business. We are their shareholders, there is a board, the superintendent is the CEO, so they all should be answering to us as the shareholders, as the people who elected them. It is not outside the scope of our rights to ask, why did you decide what you did? Show us the data that made you decide. They decided within 2 weeks before school opening and about 5 days before the parents had to declare whether their students were going to do online or hybrid. That's not a lot of time for parents to do the research, especially when they thought that 5 days was going to be an option. And we just don't know why they decided what they did, because the Utah numbers were actually coming down, not going up. So there's just a lot of inconsistencies and hypocrisies that we're just asking for answers for, and we can't seem to get them.
I see. Okay. So And you're a business owner yourself,
I am.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, so you have a lot of familiarity with what our audience is going to be concerned with in terms of their time, their schedules, which
Yeah.
are often very demanding,
Yep.
and their tendency towards more choice, more freedom, and more control over their own schedules and
Yes.
lives. So are you wanting then to advocate for a switch from hybrid to 5-day?
I am advocating for choices. I don't mind that there is an option for hybrid if that's what works for somebody's family and their children. I don't mind that there's an online option if that's what works for somebody's family. I would love an option for the families like my own who know that their children learn better in person. I have a child who has ADHD, and asking him to be online 3 out of the 5 days a week is torture for all the people. It is really hard. I have his counselor at school on speed dial so that we can mitigate how to help him get the education he needs with the challenges that he faces. And it's those high-risk kids. What about the kids who have both parents that work? So you're telling me now there's 3 days that those parents have to worry about childcare. That doesn't make any sense. What about the kids who are in an abusive home and the only respite they have is to go to school because about 90%, maybe it's even as high as 95% of those abuse cases come to light because a teacher has reported it or a parent volunteer has reported it from the school. You've now left them in a situation with an abusive parent who is already stressed because it is 2020 and now there's not as much school. Those high-risk students don't feel like they were thought of at all, whether it was learning, whether it was emotional, whether it was physical. And special needs kids, what are they supposed to do? There's a lot of questions that we have that are not being answered. It feels disorganized. And so I am not opposed to hybrid. I am opposed to not having the choices to aid the students in our community.
I love that. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. For people who want to get involved with your campaign or want to reach out to you with questions, what's the best way to do it?
I would visit my website. It's Emilie Daly, and that's Emilie with an IE.com. It's really easy. I have all the things you can donate there. You can sign the volunteer form, and I've got things as easy as being part of our social media team, and all you do is share stuff from your house to passing out flyers and putting signs up.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and our next guest will be Ashley Stuart with Rethink Clutter. She will be talking us through ways that you can bring organization into your life in a very disorganized time of life. As school is getting started, and here in Davis County, the school schedule, of course, as Emilie just discussed, is hybrid and very complicated, very difficult to organize around. And school districts throughout the state are making different sorts of accommodations for COVID concerns. And as you are trying to function and keep things moving and keep your family a well-oiled machine through all this chaos, Ashley is going to be able to provide us a few tips. But real quick, before I bring on Ashley, I would like to invite all of you who are watching this, if you are interested in being a guest on Venture Utah, you can do so for free. Simply go to ventureutah.com and click on Become a Guest. We have a very non-confrontational, non-intimidating form that you can fill out there. And once we get that, we will reach out to you when we have an episode that fits your business. Each of our interviews do get around 1,500 to 2,000 views, all locally here in the state of Utah. So if you want that kind of free exposure, hit us up at ventureutah.com/beaguest. Alrighty, now our second guest, Ashley Stuart. Thank you for being here.
Excited for the conversation.
All right, so your business is Rethink Clutter.
Yes.
Do you want to just give us a quick rundown of what it is that you do?
I am a professional organizer, and I focus a lot on the decluttering side of things. When I started my business, I just, wanted to make everybody's pantry look beautiful. And I realized the longer I got into this, that there are certain behaviors and patterns of people, they would always give me excuses as to why they couldn't get rid of something. I thought, well, why is that? So I watched, I listened, and I paid attention to why they hung on to things and how they used the stuff in their space so that I could say, okay, you know what, look, this isn't a unique case every single time. There isn't a one size fits all, but you're not all that different. There are certain behaviors and certain patterns that we all use with our stuff that lead us to a dead end, and that overwhelm and that frustration of, you know what, nothing in my house is working, and I spend all day cleaning, and then my kids come home and it, you know, and it's just a disaster, or whatever the case may be. You know, my office is a disaster. The dogs don't have a place for their crates. I mean, whatever it is, there is a solution, and it just depends on how we behave within the walls that have been given to us. And so if we pay attention to that and we learn how to declutter, how to disconnect the relationship with stuff and reconnect with people, it makes a world of difference. So I teach people how to get decluttered, because I think getting organized is a byproduct of getting rid of all the extra.
Okay.
So organization is a whole lot of fun, and I love it, and I do it every day in people's homes, but it's a byproduct of getting rid of what you don't need and only owning what it is that you need and what's going to be productive for you in your space.
And that's expanded from, you know, just organizing a pantry or organizing a closet.
Oh,
That's,
yeah.
You help people declutter their entire lives.
Yes.
Okay, so and that's what we really wanted to talk about today was with school starting, I think every district is doing something in response to COVID-19.
All different.
And they're all doing different things. So what are your tips, I guess you could say? Maybe your top 3 tips on how people can rethink the clutter in their lives.
So I don't necessarily want to give tips, because you can find tips on Pinterest.
Sure.
You can find tips wherever you want to look. You can go watch HGTV for something very specific in tips. What I would rather give is kind of a framework.
Okay.
That, hey, if I can give you a basic framework of organization, then you can go find your own tips that's very specific to what you need.
Sure.
So first of all, I want you to rethink. Rethink your space. What's working? What isn't? What do I need this room to do for me now? So if I'm taking an office and I'm turning it into now I'm homeschooling, so I'm going to have to rethink this space. How do I need this space to function and work? Rethink it. What's going to work? What isn't? Where's the natural flow of energy in this space? Because that's going to dictate what I need in this space. So once I kind of have a new grasp on how this is going to all work, then I can reduce. So anything that is in the room needs to be what is purposeful for that space. So if I am now doing homeschool in this office space, but I still have all the office supplies in there, I'm going to get distracted. I'm going to get overwhelmed. I'm going to get too cluttered. Things aren't going to be able to be put away in the right place. So I'm going to pull out anything that doesn't belong in this space. I'm going to reduce. I'm going to get it out. So the only thing that's here is what's needed for this space. And then I'm going to restructure. Then I'm going to actually move the desk. Then I'm going to actually pull in a new bookshelf or whatever it is that's going on in the space. Then I can restructure, because now I know what I have. Now I know what I need in there, and I can start putting it together in a way that makes sense for what's going to go on, paying attention to that natural flow of energy.
Okay.
Now that I have everything in there that I need, I have a really good idea of how I'm going to use it. I've put a basic structure in place. Now I can go to the store and start replacing the things that aren't working.
Okay.
So now I buy at the end, not at the beginning. We don't go to the store and say, oh, this is such a cute bin. I'm going to get this and put it in my space, because it never works that way. And then we always end up really frustrated that it's pretty, but it's not functional. We want function over beauty, and hopefully we can get a little bit of both. So now we can start replacing. This desk isn't working. This filing cabinet isn't working. You know, my kitchen pantry, what I need in my pantry is too big for this little container that I have. I'm going to replace it and get a bigger container. Now I can go to the store and say, hey, now I can buy a new bedspread for my bedroom because I flipped it around, and now I want these throw pillows, and now I can start replacing things as I go. Now I can spend the money on making it what it needs to be and buy the containers that I need, because now I know exactly what I need, what sizes and shapes and everything else. And then the 5th step is to repeat. So reassess, get in, use it for a while, and say, is this working, or do I need to rethink it? If it's working, great, you've got a good system. It might last you for 3 months, right? until something else shifts. But then repeat it. So go through, don't feel like now that I've got it in place, it's gonna last me forever. You might have to make some shifts and some adjustments. Once your kids get in the space and you know what, they can never find the markers or they can never put things away, okay, well then it's time to shift something else. So rethink what's working and what's not, and go through the whole process all over again. So, and if you do that, that gives you a really good framework to check yourself all along the way. And then you can go find those tips and say, you know, I really need some guidance in my closet. I'm gonna go find a Pinterest closet that looks like mine, and that's the tip I'm gonna follow. Or hey, you know, I really need some help in my kitchen pantry. Now I can go find the tips and guidance, or you can hire me to come and do it for you, to say, okay, this is what can actually happen. So go look for tips after you've built a framework of this is how we're gonna get it done.
I love it. So the steps, so walk through the steps, rethink. And remodel? Reduce.
So pull out all the clutter, anything that's going to distract you, anything that doesn't serve that purpose in that space.
Okay, rethink, reduce.
And then you can restructure. So that's what we think of like actually organizing. Put things where they need to be. To pay attention to that natural flow of energy. If you're right-handed, put the things that you need in your right hand on the right-hand side of your desk. Or put, you know, your cooking pots and pans next to your stove where you're actually going to get them. You know, I don't care if you have to put your dishes in a lower cabinet, if that's the cabinet that's right next to the table, or if that's the cabinet that's right next to the dishwasher. So when you unload, it goes straight into the cabinets instead of unloading the dishwasher and some things go here and some things go there and some things go over there and some things go back there and then some things go in the pantry. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to take 15 loads of laundry or, you know, make 15 stops when they do the laundry. Do 1 load of laundry per child and then take it straight to their room and put it away. So when you restructure, that's the actual organization. Okay. And then you can replace. So anything that's broken, not working, anything that needs to be bigger or different, or now you have the bins, you know, you can go get the bins that you need. So now you're replacing what isn't working to what will work, and then you repeat the process all over.
I love it. And that seems like a pretty effective framework for dealing with pretty much any situation.
Yes.
If it's a crazy school schedule, if you're now homeschooling and you weren't before, anything that you're dealing with right now, that's a pretty solid process to go through to declutter and rethink it.
Exactly.
I know.
There's method to my madness.
So how long have you been doing Rethink Clutter?
I'm almost at 5 years.
Wow, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And what were you doing before, if you don't mind me asking?
So I was actually, my bachelor's was in communication. I did TV and radio broadcasting for a lot of years, which is why I really like to, on my Facebook page, I post a lot of videos and a lot of tips. If you want specific tips and tricks, it's all on my Facebook page.
Oh, good.
And I like having people see what I do. I'm a very visual person. But so yeah, I was in radio for 15 years and production for 15 years. And I got to a point where, you know what, it wasn't working for me and my family, and I wanted to be able to stay home with my kids and build that relationship with my kids. And so I said, you know, what could I really do from home? How can I be my own boss and run my own schedule? And I just took this knack for being able to be organized. You know, I've moved 20 times and I have 3 kids, all of them with neurodiversities. And, you know, we were in the military for a while. And so, I mean, I've seen lots of different sides of life. And so I said, you know what, there are other people out there that don't know how to do what I do, but I can teach them and I can show them. And if they don't want to do it and they don't care to be taught, fine, I'll do it for them. So I've developed this business of my own to say, I can either teach you how to do it or I can just come in and get it done for you. Either way, it's going to get done, and you're going to go from that overwhelm and hating your space and taking it out on your family to being able to say, I love coming home. This is amazing. I don't need a vacation from my own house. I can feel peaceful, and I can actually have a relationship with a human rather than with my stuff. And I want that relationship there.
I love
that's really what drove me to continue and to keep going. And even during COVID times, I think people need it probably more than ever.
I'm sure they do. So real quick, just to wrap up, the best way to get in touch with you?
I have, you can follow me on Facebook, just Rethink Clutter, or find me at rethinkclutter.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for being here.
Enjoyed it.
It was great to have you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and our last guest today, bringing it home, wrapping it up, we have Scott McKinley with To Evolve Coaching and Consulting, longtime friend and partner with the show. Real quick, before I bring him on, I do want to talk about my company, Robin Hood Studios. We specialize in video production for small businesses. Small businesses are often in need of promotional materials, high-end, high-quality, professional videos and advertisements if they're going to direct traffic to their website, if they want to convert more visitors to their website when they arrive there. All of that takes very careful, intentional thought and expertise to craft videos that serve a purpose and serve a very specific purpose and do it very, very well. And that's what we specialize at doing here at Robin Hood Studios for price points that small businesses can truly afford and make it accessible for them. So if you are interested in learning more about what we do at Robin Hood Studios, you can go straight to our website, rhsvideos.com. Our phone number's there, our contact form is there. You can feel free to do that. All right, and with no more solicitations, we will bring on Scott McKinley, longtime friend and partner. Scott, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
Very excited for this conversation. And you mentioned that you want to talk about work.
Well, I want to get in, Joe and I both come up here and we talk about this assessment that we have, and we tell people, hey, reach out, take the assessment, get a good understanding of where your habits are working with you and sabotaging you. And so Joe and I were discussing this last week. He'd been up here and said, I think we need to go in and show examples of the assessment so people can understand how it works. One of my favorite speakers on presence and awareness, Michael Beckwith, says, when you understand how something works, it works better. So we want to take away confusion. We want people to be able to understand what it is that we're talking about when we say this habit finder assessment. So I sent you an image earlier this morning.
Let's get that pulled up.
Do we have, hey, look at that.
Yeah, hey.
Nice job. So part of why I want to go into this is because there's lots of coaches out there. You know, every time I go to a networking meeting, it seems like there's a new coach, which is totally fine. I think that the more coaches we have, the more people that are working to help people realize that if you're feeling stuck, it's because you're running the old program. You're doing the same thing that you used to do, and we're not meant to be the same people. We're supposed to learn. We're supposed to experience things that bring us happiness and things that bring us sadness. And from those experiences, we go, okay, well, I learned something and I grew and I evolved and I became a better version of myself. And so a lot of times people hear, oh, I'm a coach, and they just think, so what are you just going to come in and just tell me what to do? Like, that was my impression when I first worked with Joe back in 2009. And I joke about it all the time because I was really opposed to it. I thought, this is the stupidest thing, a life coach? Why would I need a life coach? I'm doing fine. And I wasn't. I was a mess. But some people, some coaches, they'll just sit down and they'll just listen and they'll observe and they'll point things out based on experiences that they've had or things that they've read about with maybe understanding the brain and neuroscience and how we think. But what Joe and I do on top of that, that's very intuitive, and we definitely do that in our coaching, but we've really embraced this program with the Augmendino Leadership Institute because it gives us a deeper way to connect with why people think the way that they think. If thoughts become things, and we've talked about that in past episodes, that energy goes out in response to the emotions and the thoughts that we're having, it really makes sense to go, well, let's understand why you have these thoughts that you have. So in the assessment, we've got 6 different areas that we look at. There's 3 areas that are in the inner world. So those are your dreams. Those are your thoughts about the joy that you're experiencing in your life. And the last is your thoughts about yourself. So if you see on this example right here, there's 6 different habits of thinking associated with each one of those topics. So this is in the outer world. So the outer world consists of our habits of thinking about people.
Okay.
People that you're in, your staff, the people that you're driving and commuting with on the road, the people that you're married to, the people that are around you. This is looking at work, and the third in the outer world is structure. But I thought, you know what? Let's go safe today. Let's go with business coaching. Let's talk about work. You know, people hire me because I'm a business coach, but as Dave Blanchard, the president of the Augmentino Institute, says, all business problems are just personal problems in disguise. However, we're going to start with work, and we're going to look at this. So you can see on the assessment here that there's different colors, that the colors can bleed to the right, the colors can bleed to the left, or the colors can be right in the middle. When we see the colors right in the middle, that means that this habit of thinking is very balanced. So it's not sabotaging you, you're not over-focused on the habit of thinking. It's right where it needs to be. So we see those green ones, but if you look at the second one, now these are the habits of thinking about productivity in business. And I'm not going to go into it right now, but you can see that this is bleeding really almost into a red type color. It goes yellow, orange, and then red represents that it's a really high risk. So this person is at a high risk of being impatient when it comes to the productivity, and we'll go into that a little bit more. What I want to explain is when you're taking the assessment, you're asked to rank 36 different things. 18 of those things represent the inner world, dreams, joy, self. 18 of those things represent people, work, structure. So there's 6 categories for each one of those 3. So when you're ranking those things, they're based on mathematical value, intrinsic value, extrinsic value, and systemic value. Don't have time to go into everything that means, but it's just the way that we value things.
Okay.
If it goes to the right, if you look at the assessment, it means that when you were ranking those things in that mathematical order, you ranked it higher than it needed to be. So you've overvalued the importance of that habit of thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If it goes to the left, that means you ranked it lower than where it was supposed to be. So you're undervaluing the importance of this habit of thinking. So that's going to come into play here in just a second when we look at this first habit, because motivation is the first thing that this assessment pulls up when it comes to work. The ideal habit of thinking is being passionate. So what does passion mean to you?
Passion, what passion means to me.
You didn't think I was going to get you talking on here.
I tricked you. I got to shift gears. My turn to talk. Okay. Passion. I would say passion is a strong desire to do it.
Yeah.
And it comes not from any external source so much as it comes from your own internal desire to get something done.
Absolutely. Going a little bit deeper on that, passion is something that you're willing to suffer for. Okay, so it's something that we're really just gonna go out and we're gonna give it our all for. Passion is super important when you have a job, because if you're not passionate like this person is, they're very balanced. If you're under focused on the importance of being passionate about what you're doing, we see signs of that with the clients that we work with who are just feeling stressed, or they're just burnt out, or they're fatigued, and they're often in a place where they're questioning why they're even doing what they're doing. This is super important if you have a job, or especially if you're managing people, to be able to recognize, hey, you seem burnt out. You seem like you're not fully checked in. When we are passionate about something, we're willing to give it everything. We're willing to show up and stay, not because people expect us to, but because we want to get this done the right way and in the right time frame. What I want you to notice on this assessment is I talked about overvaluing the importance of something. And if you see in that top corner, it says NA, meaning it's not possible to overvalue the importance of being passionate about something. You couldn't have ranked it more than one higher than it needed to go mathematically. So, man, I've worked with people in the past who have lost their passion. I've lost passion before in jobs that I have, and it's an exhausting way to go about your day. I mean, you've probably worked with people who show up in an office and they're there physically, but mentally they're checked out. So what this assessment does is it allows us to say, if you happen to be on that left side, your focus is not on the passion, it's on the exhaustion, it's on the stress. Then we have exercises as coaches to help them get back centered in that passion area so the work is more enjoyable again. I want to go down to the next one, productivity. Obviously you can see that the ideal habit is being conscientious. That means I understand what needs to happen for this project to be finished. You're working on something, you know the amount of time that needs to go into it. You know the resources that you need to garner to be able to make that happen. The over focus on productivity, and I don't know if you've ever worked with somebody like that, is they're really impatient. Ways that we can identify, aside from the assessment, if somebody is over focused on productivity, is they're doing everything themselves. They don't feel like anybody else is matching their level of commitment, so they get impatient. Now they're biting people's heads off. If you're a manager and you've got this habit of thinking of just being impatient, what are you doing to motivate your people? Like what are they saying at the water cooler or in the break room when they're all talking about you? Are they upset that you're not supportive and conscientious of the time that it's taking to make this happen? Or are you coming across like a bear? The opposite is just being fatigued. And again, this is kind of connected to that cousin habit of thinking with being passionate, is you lose that motivation, you start being fatigued. Now the law of attraction starts kicking in. Because you're complaining, you're focused on being tired, you're focused on not being valued, you're starting to question, is it even worth what I'm doing anymore, the compensation that I'm receiving? Now you start looking for things to complain about even more, and before you know it, not being conscientious of the productivity that you should be focused on. I've seen people lose their jobs, top sales performers in a company get fired because they became fatigued, because they weren't aware of it. And that's the whole point of this assessment, is just to bring awareness to some of these programs that are still running in the subconscious part of your mind. It's not your fault that you've developed these habits of thinking, but at some point in our adult lives, it does become our responsibility to become aware of them and to start going, are these habits helping me or are they holding me back? And what can I do about it? And that's where coaches really step in to go, let's observe from a different perspective, and we can share things with you that you might not even be seeing. I want to jump down to obstacles.
Okay.
Because obstacles is one, and I don't know how much time we have left.
We do need to wrap it up, but let's do it.
So let's wrap it up with obstacles, because being proactive, we're going to face challenges in our life. You're going to have employees that call out sick. You know, we had an obstacle earlier this morning. We were having issues with the sound. Being able to just be proactive and go, okay, so what can we do about it? Is it something that we can control? Is it out of our control? Okay, so let's not get over-focused on it, because if we start getting over-focused on a thing, now we're overstating it. Now we're turning those molehills into mountains, and that cousin habit of catastrophizing starts coming into play. We didn't talk about that one today, but that's in dreams of how we visualize and how we see things. And that's when the sky is falling mentality starts coming into play. Whereas if we're undervaluing the importance of being aware of these obstacles, we start to procrastinate. We start to push them back. And then the law of attraction kicks in, because we're not doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. We're not being protective of the work that we've created. We're putting things off. Now we're in trouble. Now we're missing deadlines. Now we're disappointing clients. And it just all starts to roll into this giant snowball effect. So I'll wrap it up with this. If you are a manager, if you're running a team, and if you want to be a better manager, one of the best things that you can do is start to become aware of these habits involving the outer part of your world. If you don't want to step into that inner world yet, that's fine. But let's look at how you think about people. Let's look at what you think about work and structure. And if there's areas that make improvements, what do you have to lose?
I love it. So a great step for them would be to take the assessment.
Take the assessment. It's free. We'll even give you a free debrief of what that assessment looks like, and then offer strategies and suggestions of what we do as certified habit finder coaches, as law of attraction practitioners, to help you get those thoughts back where they need to be and get that subconscious program working with your conscious mind and not against it.
So if they want to take the assessment, where do they go?
If you send me an email at scott@2evolvecoaching.com, and that's the number 2, I can send it right to you. It takes about 5-10 minutes to take it, and then we can schedule a time to debrief within a couple of days.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here, Scott.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was awesome information. All right, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Venture Utah. We will catch you at the same time next week, Friday at 10 a.m.